But with Tylenol, don't take it. Don't take it. And if you can't live, if your fever is so bad, you have to take one because there's no alternative to that, sadly.
President Trump urging pregnant moms to not take acetaminophen or Tylenol due to what his administration says is an increased risk for autism.
That announcement comes after months of buildup from a bluster from Trump and RFK Jr., insisting that they will find the root cause of what Kennedy called the, quote, autism epidemic, all culminating in Monday's press conference, where the long-awaited answer was Tylenol.
Effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol during pregnancy, can be associated with a very increased risk of autism.
That's a hard word. Following the announcement, the head of the FDA sent a letter to physicians urging them to minimize the use of acetaminophen during pregnancy, but it included a major disclaimer that reads in part, quote, to be clear, while an association between acetaminophen and autism has been described in many studies as a causal relationship, or in many studies, a causal relationship has not been established, and there are contrary studies in the scientific literature. The letter continues, quote, this consideration should also be balanced with the fact that acetaminophen is the safest over-the-counter alternative in pregnancy.
In response to the press conference, Tylenol seller Kenvue said in a statement, quote, acetaminophen, and by the way, I have never known that there was an N in that word. I'm just seeing this for the first time.
What are you calling it?
Acetaminophen is, I think, what I called it, but I'm obviously wrong. Acetaminophen is the safest pain reliever option for pregnant women as needed throughout their entire pregnancy. Rigorous research endorsed by leading medical professionals and global health regulators confirms there's no credible evidence linking acetaminophen to autism.
Now, of course, Tylenol isn't the only target of the administration when it comes to autism. Secretary Kennedy also announced a renewed look into a potential link between infant vaccines and autism. Let's take a look at that.
It looks like they're pumping into a horse. You have a little child, little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines, I guess, 80 different blends.
Some 40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine. President Trump believes that we should be listening to these mothers instead of gaslighting and marginalizing them like prior administrations.
Online reactions to the announcements were swift, with doctors largely disputing the president's claims and many of them making light of them with memes. But Terry Moran, the reporter fired from ABC for his tweet about Stephen Miller, had a different takeaway.
This really isn't about the science. It's about trust. Trust in public health officials, in the public health authorities. And part of that trust has been damaged by vandals like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but also by COVID. What happened during COVID. Some of what people were told wasn't true. Some of what the government did was excessive, and trust was broken. That's the real problem that needs to be solved.
And excuse me, I said Terry Moran, I meant Moran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with him there, which is not something I usually say. This is interesting. They kind of punted on the vaccine autism link question thing. And, when RFK
What do you mean by that?
Well, that they didn't. They're just kind of waving it. Maybe there's a link. And because Trump was not happy about RFK Jr. beating that drum too loudly, because Trump supports Operation Warp Speed and all of that. I don't know the line about, 40% of mothers of kids who have autism think it was the vaccine. I mean, we can all think whatever we think. It's just
there was a lot in this press conference of what I think, what I feel, and that's beautiful. I love those words.
Well, now
we're talking about literature or something like esoteric, but we're talking about scientific.
Okay, but there is.
I know.
I looked at the study.
Fine, me too. But tell me so I can.
So my takeaway from the study was that there was a link found, but the result was a little questionable because siblings of people diagnosed with autism who should have then also had that diagnosis because they were reared in the same circumstance. They were biologically formed with a mother taking acetaminophen. Were not diagnosed with autism. So that casts some doubt on the finding. Look, I think it's fine to urge people to maybe be a little bit, or this specific subgroup of people, to be a little bit more cautious in the same way pregnant women are urged not to have any alcohol, even though there's actually very little finding that extreme.
Not you telling the pregnant ladies to have a drink.
Well, there's no, because you can't. I mean, reckless drinking would be very bad, but I mean, pregnant women. No, you're the expert on this. You've been a pregnant woman. Know that a glass of Chardonnay every now and then is not going to hurt you if you're pregnant. I mean, that's true. That's contrary to what the FDA says, but it's true. So just being conscious of these things, the way people are about alcohol and whatever else, seems fine to me. A lot of people, myself included, take painkillers just like way too. I chew ibuprofen like candy, and it's probably not good for you. So I don't have any problem really with this guidance.
Well, the thing is, I don't mind looking into anything, but the co-author of the study told Politico, "Oh, you can still take it in low dose for pain reduction." Like, so she's still saying it, but Trump didn't say it.
Well, that's what Trump said. If you're in excruciating pain, you got to take it. There's nothing else to do.
Trump said, I just say don't. He's saying words like, don't take Tylenol. You saw our banner. He's saying that so definitively as if the connection were equally as definitive as his stance, which it is not. There are several studies equal, I think even more, not directly linking the two things. And the problem is that I was pregnant, like you said, and I had a fever before. Like, if you have a high fever, for example, you're telling women, oh my God, you might be the reason why your child has autism, and there's no definitive link. Right. And imagine this woman just is suffering through this fever while pregnant, and then her kid just happens to have autism and there's not a link. It's like, you're going to ruin that mindset forever.
If you have a high fever, having a high fever and being pregnant, that also presents a health risk to the baby? That presents a health risk to the baby, yes. Treat that with
But then say they're beating themselves up for the rest of their lives, thinking that there's a connection now, and that's the problem. Unless we know, we can't go off ideology. I'm happy to look into what people think and what research shows, but when you make a definitive statement as the president at RFK and come up here on the heels of last week, just arguing with Susan Monterez in the middle of Capitol Hill, when she's saying, I can't agree with your ideology, I want to go off research and science. This is actually happening in tandem, and parents are the ones left with the brunt of this entire thing and confusion that's happening with the CDC, with the vaccine guidelines, because there are literal examples, even though they're few and far between. Like, our country is very good at vaccinating and making sure children are safe in schools, et cetera, et cetera. However, there still are people that have died in this year because they missed things like their measles shot on the heels of not trusting the CDC because of the COVID response. And now here we are saying, oh, don't take Tylenol if you're feeling terrible.
What if it and vaccines are one of a million different things that are all slightly little variables that in a tiny, tiny, tiny way, in a tiny minority of people, make you a little bit more likely to later be diagnosed with autism. Those two things and a bunch of other things. That seems perfectly like it might be the case based on the studies that. Did
this press conference seem like a tiny little? No, it seemed like I wouldn't do it. Don't. Right. He's sending the alarms.
Link between saying this causes this is not responsible evaluation of where the science is now.
Right, and we heard, like I said, a lot of I feel and parents' feelings are valid, but science is even more valid, and so we need to make sure we're coming to the table with well-reasoned facts and links between doctors.
But with vaccines, is it safe that I believe that they are safe in the extreme, 99.999% of cases, but someone, and not even in the autism front, someone has an adverse reaction to vaccination. One in however many millions of people, it happens. So that you can't invalidate that experience. That doesn't mean
the only thing I agree with that RFK said is that other administrations have othered those people and made it seem like their claims aren't valid. It's just before you present it to the entire U.S., maybe we should have facts, hard, locked-in facts.
Next up, CNN's Scott Jennings is referring Keith Olbermann to Kash Patel. Find out why. Don't go anywhere.